Welcome to Insurance Technology Amplified, the podcast where we explore how innovation is transforming the insurance industry. This is the place where technology and expertise come together to empower agents, carriers, and the industry alike. Thank you for tuning in. Now, let's get to the show.
Reid, welcome to the Momentum ITA Podcast. I have to say, I feel a little shortchanged because the last podcast we did was your podcast, and we just caught up recently. So it's been a while since we spoke, and now we're kind of doing the podcast overload. But I guess, we're not going to get into overdosing jokes right now, at least in the first 5 minutes. We'll leave that to the end.
I wore my special shirt. That's the first time I wear this, Michael. I don't know if you know that. This is how moved I am.
I did not know that. It's a one of one. And for those of you who are watching and not just listening, if you look at Peter's jersey, I actually made that with my bare hands. I ordered the jersey from Alibaba, the patch, the Arsenal patch I ordered from eBay. The Momentum thing, I ordered a vinyl iron-on from some company online, and I ironed it on myself. Legit.
If all else fails, he's got a job someplace.
Yes,
make sure it's pretty crafty with that.
So, Rita, I want to pick up on a couple of things, and I got to say, one of the expressions I think on TikTok is they talk about living rent free in our heads. You've been living rent free in our heads a bit, since we did the podcast and since we were in Wisconsin and spent some time together. There are a lot of things that Ivans is doing that, I really believe we should be availing ourselves of. And I wanted to maybe just use this time and geek out a bit and maybe not spend the first couple of minutes on the stereotypical podcast bullshit of Reid, what do you think of the future of insurance? But I want to geek out on literally some of the functionality of the APIs because we've been talking about it. Could you go into, I think you were describing it in the carrier workflow where an application comes in, there's information about the insured, and rather than the traditional way of waiting for the insured to fill out the info and then confirming that maybe it's right, you guys kind of nip that in the bud in the beginning, and you kind of, from the carrier perspective, as soon as you send the information to the insured and say, this is what we know about you. Do I have that right?
Oh, they can. Yes, that is a capability. But I think really what you're talking about is data pre-fill and then augmenting data. And then once actually the carrier is receiving the submission and information coming from the agency about the insured, it's taking that, structuring it, understanding it, and then going, wait a second here. This person is a restaurant. Yes, you say they don't have a deep fryer, but we're seeing all this stuff all over the web of people eating chicken wings and French fries and onion rings. And hey, by the way, we're also seeing posts at 2 a.m. with people with beers in their hand. I think this might be a little bit of a different risk than what's being specified in this way. Another thing that we do is helping classify risk as well. There's a big problem out there in the industry where some of this really highly transactional stuff, big personal auto, more like commercial auto, but in a very, very big way, where you're writing so much of it online, you need to understand, hey, and sometimes you just don't know what that risk actually is. You kind of know what they put in, but you don't really know what to classify it as. Having tools to help them figure that out in a very, very fast manner. To help reclassify those risks. That's talking about, but yes, a lot around that. For us, at Ivans, our customer is the carrier. Our customer is the MGA wholesaler, and so everything we're trying to do is trying to streamline their overall flow, and help them do things in ways leveraging technology, data, and connectivity back to their distribution to facilitate that, I guess. So. Yeah, so we have a lot of tools and a lot of things that a lot of people out there in the industry don't really know we do. I mean, on the carrier sides, they do. But generally the agencies see us kind of as the download company. and that's what we do, and that's part of it, yes. But we do a lot more than just that, especially these days, and especially because of all the acquisitions that we've made over the last number of years, really kind of broadening our suite of products that we offer. So, and yeah, I mean, we got more acquisitions coming, so there's a lot going on at Ivan's, but it's cool. And so, like, you talk about APIs, a lot of people don't know, we've had APIs for years, especially even around download and whatnot. That stuff exists. A lot of people, if you want to geek out on this stuff, everything's everything. Like today, most agency management systems are pulling files from Ivan's via fixed length AL3 files, right? And everybody hates AL3. But you know what? I mean, Peter, you know this, like AL3 is complicated to deal with. But once you do, it works, right? It's not ideal by any means, so please don't get me wrong here, people. But we have the ability to do the APIs and whatever you want, it's there. But the reality is so many companies have built to the AL3 standard prior to APIs coming out that it just works. So like even you guys today, it's like, hey, it's there. Do you want to do it? You guys are a customer. We'll hook you up. No problem at all. We're here to help. Absolutely. But if it's not broke, don't fix it sometimes, you know? And so, but there is, and the other thing too is, like a lot of people don't know, I'm not going to name names, but you've probably heard tier 1 carrier recently talking about, hey, we're doing everything real time now. Everything's like, we have a real time API that's connecting you back to the system. Again, that's all facilitated by us. And so, which is kind of nice. So if you think about that, like the opportunity there, you can think about a world where you go make a policy change on a carrier site and then instantly it's updated back in the agency management system. Like that's pretty good for things like certificates of insurance and stuff like that, where you may need that very quickly. So you're not, it's not double entry in that way. But really a lot of it, it's if it's batched overnight, which a lot of it is today, it's not the, it's okay. Right. And so I guess what I'm saying is there's a lot of things that we have available. The technology is there. People can leverage it as much as they see fit. Not everybody does today. And I think it's just because there's just the way that things were built back in the day. But it's not broken in that way. If that makes sense.
Simple what it is.
Reid, last time I checked, and it probably was a couple of years ago, but there's only a handful of carriers that provided real-time policy downloads. That's still the case. Has that picked up?
Still the case.
Still the case. Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of that too, to be fair, like where you're seeing that is a lot of the Guidewire carriers, because we built an integration in the Guidewire's policy center. So the ones that are implementing cloud with Guidewire, they're going to be the ones that have that. Not everybody has that, and not everybody has the capability. So it is very limited still. And again, like, I guess my point to all that is, it sounds really awesome, and it sounds like this is what the industry needs. Real time, yes. But when you really dig into like the workflow and the core things that you're doing with it, a lot of people haven't said, I have to have this because this will make me so much more efficient in my business. I'm speaking through the agency's perspective, that it hasn't been demanded of the carriers to make that change, But if the way that this industry works, if people start, if the distribution, the agencies push back in a hard way and say, hey, by the way, carrier A, I'm putting all my business with carrier B because carrier B is doing this technically. Carrier A is going to jump on the phone and be like, yo, I need this thing right now, because that's their distribution. That's how they generate revenue, is through that channel. But there just hasn't been enough of a demand for it out there to really make it that important. It's kind of like eDocs, right? eDocs have been around a long time, but the industry didn't really demand it. You know what eDocs really blew up for us? eDocs completely exploded during the pandemic because people didn't want to send in humans into their mailroom to scan paper documents. They're like, why don't we use this eDoc thing? By the way, carrier, I'm not going to write business with you anymore unless you get that. And then all of a sudden, boom, our phone blew up off the hook hook me up on eDocs because nobody wants to do that anymore. So you see what I'm saying? It's like a trend within the industry. The agency's demanding it. And because it is operationally makes so much more sense for them is what's going to drive demand, and for the carriers to prioritize their roadmaps around these types of things.
Yeah. But, we do run into this simple case. This is a problem for a lot of agencies. I just wrote a policy commercial. I need to produce a certificate. I have to wait until tomorrow, so there's obviously multiple different ways but they're all workarounds. But then they enter the policy manually. Then the policy comes in the download. Somebody fat finger the wrong policy. Now we got a duplicate. So believe it or not, it's not a trivial problem. I see it more often than not. There's got to be some way for these carriers to be able to, maybe it's just for new business, to be able to produce the push the download, push the same LT file, even if it's just the header information. Really, push it out to Ivan so we can pick it up. I don't know, like maybe just like with eDoc, something will happen and then it will become popular. But it's actually a real problem.
And even today, even with the AL3s, it's up to the carriers when they want to send it. You know what I mean? And so they can send it every 10 minutes if they want to. They can send it in real time. And then it's up to the system, as when it's going to go get picked up. What we used to do at Tech Canaries, we stood everything up, EC2, S3. And so basically we would just go call to it every 10 minutes. And then boom, when there's something there, boom, and then it's in the system.
Yeah.
Again, I honestly though, like, it was a lot, and we're doing that, and it's great. Some carriers have sent it at 2 p.m. Some carriers sent it this time. But not everybody was sent all per day.
Oh no,
Right.
I think 90%, 80% come, between midnight and like the wee hours. Yeah, we don't see anything during the day. I want to go back to the very first question, but before that, since we're on carrier downloads, a couple of topics of interest. Two, and I'm gonna, state them and then we can discuss them. But MGA's networks clusters, where they get a master code and they get the carrier downloads, but then the 100 agencies that actually wrote the business, they don't have access to their carrier downloads to put them in their management system. So I know of one network that work with you guys, and they are the only one that I'm aware of the major networks that in cooperation with you. It wasn't something they did on their own, but they're able to then, after they receive the carrier downloads for all of their business, they're able to push those down to the Ivan's mailboxes for their members. So I don't know what the plans are, but we always come into that. People think they have carrier downloads, but no, but I'm running through a cluster, so I have to then manually do it and all that stuff. So it's another low tech but very useful solution that if you guys could figure out a way to make it more available, it will be very popular with agents.
We have the complete ability to do that today. It's really the same workflow if you think about it for us with an MGA as opposed to an MGA or a cluster, right? Because MGA does business with carrier, information comes into MGA when business is written, then the through download, then those agencies that are doing business with that MGA need the download. So then we ship it to those agencies through that MGA's system.
Is that available?
And we've been doing that.
Is that available universally throughout, or is that something that was bespoke to that one partner that Peter's referring to?
It's bespoke. I'm not exactly sure on like the number of clusters and whatnot that we connect to. There's actually a few of them, and there's even some franchise agencies and things like that where they built their own unique technology that we are connecting into directly. So there's a lot of like nuance there. There's one cluster that uses one of our tools called Bookroll, where they don't even touch the download. What they do is they have all their agencies subscribed to our Bookroll tool, which is a tool that carriers use for literally doing that, Bookrolls. And then basically every night it runs and it grabs all of the download files that came from all those agencies, and then it stands all that up and it brings them into their core system to do whatever they want to do on it. A lot of it's like cross-sell up to opportunity, just like really looking at their book and helping those agencies in that way. So that's another one that does it like that. But to answer your question, there's a lot of MGAs that have signed up for Ivan's download. Most all the big ones have signed up and are doing it or are in the process of implementing Ivan's download. So a lot of people don't realize that the big ones, they're already connecting up to us, coming soon to your agency, receiving those downloads via the MGA. But we have a team of people. That's all they focus on are those customers. But it's not like a free, easy, simple service because we have to go in and connect into those MGA systems, which MGA systems can be much more bespoke than even a policy administration system or an agency management system for sure. And so there's a lot of little nuanced services stuff that you have to go do with our data pulling ninjas at Ivan's to go get it. Yeah.
Speaking of MGAs, who comes up with these weird nakes for the MGAs and the carriers? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, there's usually a NAIC, an NAIC code for a carrier is like 5 digits, right? Only numbers. And then, now you have like an MGA that starts with a J, right? And then you see the 5 letters of the actual underwriting carrier and then the J to indicate that is, whatever. Have you seen those?
I'm not that electric anymore, beer. No, I don't know that, but I could totally see it. But
I can get it. I'd be like, why? I kind of get it, but the whole NAICS thing is that's a whole nother situation. There's a lot to be said around all of that too. But I don't know. No.
So that's what they do it. Somebody's told me that was the vertical way of identifying things. But I think the industry needs a way to identify the billing company, the writing company, the managing company, and all that stuff because people want it, right? They want to see the MGA, they want to see the underwrite. Because on the certificate, you have to put the actual writing company, technically.
Absolutely.
Right? So, yeah.
Absolutely.
But most agents don't even know who that is. They know that they're dealing with this wholesale or the MGA, right? And in each state's different, right? So, for that line of business in that underwriter.
But Peter, what's the use case in our world where you're talking about the downstream code and being able to push it down to the sub-agent? Like, what's the practical use case?
Which question? The NAIC or the previous question?
The question before in terms of the agency, going through a wholesaler or through an aggregator.
A lot of agencies have, large chunks of their book written through a wholesaler or cluster or network, and they just that don't have access to their carrier downloads. And again, carrier downloads, for what it's worth, with all the tribulations, I tell people it's the best. Whatever it is, $35-$50 you're gonna spend. It's like people ask me, is it worth it? I'm like, yeah, it's worth it. You want to hire like somebody to make a lot of mistakes for $5,000 a month, or you want to just pay a couple of bucks and have everything automatically flow into your system before you wake up. And this is the original automation. We're talking like what, 30 years ago? It's a no-brainer. So if you're working with a cluster or network and they get the carrier downloads, which actually most of them don't even know what to do with. Right? They don't need to be issuing certificates or even management policies. They only care about the direct bill statements because they want to run commissions, but that's about it. But the agent who needs to service the policy has to manually enter it, which leads me to our next question, kind of. Man, when is Evans going to have the ability for multiple vendors to pull that file? Or at least something to say, pull, redeposit. How about a call, pull, redeposit? Do you know what I'm talking about, right?
You know how many people call us every day about that? Like, seriously, like every day. People call us and they're like, hey, like I'm this type of company. I know you have this data feed. I would love to be able to access this for that. No, I know 100% what you're talking about. It's something that we're really talking about right now. We're really close to, and we're trying to figure out a solution for, because there's a real need for it, especially like when you start to get into like the risk management side of companies and things like that. You start to think about, all the certificate management tools out there. Hey, Surofficial, Trust Layer, MyCLY. There's a bunch of those kind of companies that are out there that would really love to be able to tap into that information.
there's a lot of complexity around it because the carriers are a customer. That, who owns the data? Like, what does that look like? Technically, our relationship is today with our agency management system vendors around that. How do you guys feel about that? So there is some politics around it, and and a little bit of drama, and it's not a very simple thing to just turn on, if you will.
So I'm not even talking about the different types of vendors. I'll give you a couple of scenarios that are very, day-to-day simple. An agency, it's migrating from one AMS to another. In a lot of cases, they were using both systems at the same time, right? They're still doing some stuff in the old management system, and they want to use, the downloads to build up the database in the new management system. But only one of them can pull them, right? So they a lot of times what they do, they'll either employ a person or an RPA after they disappear to go back and just deposit them again and then manually pull them into the other management system. Recently, I talked to an agency where they split the book. They were family, and they split the book. And one of the family members was using one management system, and the other was staying on the old management system. And they both wanted to be able to get a carrier download so they have access to their data. But again, there was no option for that. So there are workarounds. It's manual, but maybe in those instances where there is no no other vendors, but it's still an AMS pulling it. It's just that being able to designate maybe even a separate mailbox to copy it into. I don't know. Yeah.
And that might be a much easier path, Peter, because like most of the stuff that we get is from outside companies that are wanting to tap into the data, intercept it as it's going to the management systems and whatnot. But like, I could totally see it. I mean, I totally get that. It makes sense. Like initial download, like, you want to populate the new system. You get your initial download, new system, boom, that one starts doing its thing. Other one, is still running on not the initial, but normal downloads because you want to see, screen to screen what's happening, right? This stuff's happening for testing purposes. I could totally see it. Yeah. 100%.
Maybe even, a simple solution would be to allow agencies for a period of time to create a duplicate mailbox and just copy everything in there, have one management system access that one. Probably simple as that. Cool. I want to go back to that first question because Michael mentioned that to me, that you guys met and discussed this data enrichment / risk qualifying and AI capabilities. And you described a restaurant where people are chugging beers at 2 a.m. and stuff like that. But does that in any way, shape, or form rely on old policy data that you obviously, as Ivan says, is the mailman in the industry has access to? Is it all just generic on the internet type of databases?
Yeah, that's not, none of that is from the historic Ivan's data. All that comes from Plank and the Plank acquisition. They've been wrenching on that since 2016 or something. So quite some time. But yeah, it's all, a lot of it's public information, all the databases, social media, all that type of stuff. It's a lot of there's a lot of companies are going after that in that same way. But yeah, it's that. It's not our data by any means.
Okay. Do you have one thing I'm trying to figure out to do is for more complicated commercial risks to be able to build an AI brain of that expert agent, which is like top 5 percentile, right? These agents, they exist, right? And we're talking about a complex risk, multiple locations, multiple different type of policies. Can we build, what kind of data I'm trying to figure out? First of all, is anybody provided? Do you guys have anything similar to that? To be able to take this risk, maybe even take, some old policy information from the risk itself, and then upload it, check a variety of different sources, and be able to determine the best coverage options for this risk. Because as you and I know, a lot of even like mid-market commercial clients are not properly covered. I know from our own experience how cyber was crap for a long time. I was aware of it, but it was one of these things that, I didn't want to deal with it. But finally, we got somebody who analyzed what we really need, what the business does. I mean, did more than like, the 20-minute, let me get you a quote, and that should be good enough. What do? You sell software. Okay, great. So have you come across, whether it's Plank or somebody else, of anybody building that kind of that, let's call it like the expert commercial agent brain that can then analyze a risk and say, this is what you need, and can do a real good judgment of, when you get a policy, a couple of quotes to determine which one is the best quote, not price-wise, but matching the insurance needs?
Not really, not in the complex side yet. I can see it going there, but the problem is on the complex commercial is the data generally isn't really there. It's stuffed into all kinds of different formats and different colors, if you will, depending on the agency. And so some agencies don't put any of the information into the agency management systems and literally are just attaching the policy docs with some lightweight header data in Epic. They're using some other outside source to store everything, in ways. And so it's all over the place, especially on the large, complex stuff. At Ivan's, like, we don't really download large commercial. And in fact, commercial lines generally is not as nearly as adopted as personal lines is. And there's a lot of room for that. Like, a lot of that is just like legacy industries perspective on, oh, wait, the download data on commercial lines isn't good and it's going to like mess up my management system. There's a lot of that, like, which is true in some ways. That used to be like that, and maybe true in some systems a little bit today, but a lot of that's gone away. So like there hasn't been like a real a long time of good clean data flowing over the pipe into the systems to begin with, and then the agencies haven't really trusted all the commercial lines data as is. And then so then when you talk about really going through that information and leveraging AI to say, here's all the data, what are you going to have to do? You'd have to train it on all the documents. So you got to get really smart document ingestion. You got to take that then and structure it. Then you got to tell, okay, hey, when this looks like this, you should really think it might be like that or whatever. They should be having that. It's a lot of training. It's a lot of modeling, and there's a lot of work there. I feel like. And so I haven't seen it in my experience, but I think there's a lot to be said about just connectivity and streamlining the data flow of commercial lines generally, starting in micro and small, and then moving up. Now, the automation, like we have a product at Ivan's called the Ivan's Distribution Platform with IDP, which is basically like, as you guys know, basically the pipes for quoting small commercial. Started in micro, moved to small. Most all there's like 30 or 40 carriers on it now. But I'll tell you, it's interesting because as these carriers are starting to build out their stacks and they've gone through the Guidewire implementations and all this stuff, now they're looking at how do we start to streamline mid-market. And we've seen a couple of carriers that are coming onto IDP for mid-market to try to streamline that overall flow. And then again, so it's like, it's starting to happen on the front end where we're starting to see like the quoting experience start to get better, and people started to leverage AI, especially around like document ingestion on the submissions and whatnot at the carrier side. There's a lot of that going on. And then like to complete the circle, it's coming through Ivan's back into the management systems based on the standard that we're already doing today. Because although the data is much larger, there's a lot more scheduled stuff and a lot of things on the more complex risk. The overall like header data, all of that is pretty much the same, right? I mean, generally speaking, but it's complicated. So I think it's a big problem to solve that the industry's making big strides towards solving, but I think it's going to be some time before we see that really the way that it should be. I guess I'll say.
Can I ask you one technical question about IDP? This is something that came up. We were talking to Kiefer, And, one of the things that you guys are so well situated to do, and I think one of the holy grails that everybody's chasing is this like question mapping schema, right? If I
Yep.
want to do a GL or a comp policy and I want to submit it to 3 carriers, but they all ask different questions or they ask the same question differently, and you guys have slayed that dragon, so to speak. You have that done. Within the API structure, is that something that could be called independently? Because, we have pipes to different entities for the submission. Right now, we could be working with CoverForce or we'd be working with SEMSI, where we're using them for that submission flow. But is it possible to hit you guys just for the question mapping, or does it have to be like an all or nothing? Like we're using IDP for the submission and we got to use it all, or is that call an independent call?
I don't know technically to answer that question. Like I get, one of my people to figure that
Yeah,
out,
I know
but
they're
like,
talking about it,
but
but
I
it
would
came up. So
assume
I figured maybe
I
you were
would
doing it.
assume, yeah, why not? Like we don't care, it's just part of the API. Call to it. We mark them. All the questions, they're marked, so they're duplicates. You can call into it and figure it all out, 100%. But I don't know, like technically, like if you're gonna get exactly how you want it and what you want, I don't know. But like our teeth will help you, whatever you guys see, in that way. But yeah, that's a big positive of using IDP, because it's like, and by the way, for people that are out there listening, like for that, again, our carrier is our customer. If people want to build solutions around this, we want to give them this solution so they can do that, because it's good for the carrier, it's good for us. And so, so whatever we can do there to help and to continue the flow overall. But that's a big advantage of IDP, because you're right, it's a lot of heavy lifting figuring out, oh, this is area and this one's square footage. Are those the same? Stuff like that, right? And so it's like it takes humans a lot of time to work through all of that with all the individual carriers and everything. And that's what our team does. So yeah, it's about, and that's why you'll see, like, and you guys know I'm not going to name names like publicly on this, but there are a bunch of companies out there that are in this business that do this, that are leveraging IDP as their backend, as they should. I would, frame. I mean, just, like download an industry solution, right? And so yeah, so whatever you guys need there, we're here to help. But I don't know exactly if we have what you want today in that way.
Yeah, I think we're working with Rob and his team to get it. So
Yeah.
on that note, going back to some boring stuff. Last Ivan's question, I promise. Custom coverage codes, bane of my existence. I didn't at last check there was 70,000 or something, and our geeks have hard-coded them into the system, so I can imagine what it takes to maintain them. You guys have a database that you can provide as an API call or something? Or I don't know. We get like a list with every carrier, and they change, and we should think about something.
Not really. I know it's such it, dude. And when I was at Tech Canary, it's the same thing. I had to write all of it. Honestly, at first, Peter, when we wrote the download in the TC, we just let them create it. Just boom, 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 create it. And they're, they duplicate them and whatnot, because it's a mess. Every carrier has their secret sauce of these unique coverage codes. It's getting worse, by the way. And like there's all these unique risk factors now on the front end they're starting to get into, and it's like, and especially like with ground AI and whatnot, some of these to get real cute with stuff, especially on the front end. And so the submission process, so it's getting even worse, I think. It's a real pain in the ass. So like the end users don't really know it, because guys like you are wrenching on it and building the solutions to work with it, but it's a real pain in the ass to work with. And the problem is the issue is that that's the carrier's secret sauce in a lot of ways, and that's how they stay unique in their own way and price the risk the way they price them and do what they do. And so standardizing that and bringing that together, it's hard. And so we don't have people that do that day in and day out and are consolidating those to come up with like an crazy industry spreadsheet. You know who would be a good company to do that though?
Hmm.
This company called Accord. I think that they should.
I thought you were gonna say, "Good luck with that."
I don't know. I mean, maybe. I mean, maybe it is for us to do it, and you guys tell me. The audience to tell me. But like, I don't know. It's an industry thing. It's across everything. You know. And
I
it
don't even
makes
need
it
them
difficult.
standardized. I just need a description next to the code. That's all I need, so I can display the actual descriptions. It's some kind of platinum plan. Whatever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, cool. Michael, what do you got?
Want to go into AI for a minute. We've avoided it for 45 minutes, but we're here. Reid, fast forward a couple of years, and I know where your mind's at a couple of years, and it involves shooting things and racing things. But how do you see the impact? I mean, people talk about, SaaS is dead, and anything that's can be done in an automation, and conventional wisdom could be that, like, even download. Maybe with the recent Chat GPT agent AI, I could go to a portal and scrape all the data and pull it out. But I think insurance is going to be a little bit slower to adapt than most. But what do you think is going to be the material aha moment? What do you think is going to be the big impact of AI? Let's call it, maybe not 3 years is too far away, but 12 to 24
Yeah.
months out.
In my opinion, yeah, I've spent a lot of time in this space talking to a lot of companies, and I think where people are going to be materially impacted via AI within our industry in the near term is going to be underwriting mid-market and complex risk, document ingestion, smart document ingestion, just stupid human stuff, man. Like, if you're if you are a company and you're like, oh, I'm should go hire, and I'm not going to name names, one of these companies that will provide humans to do tasks like taking information off of a document and putting it into a system, I would say that those things are going to change. I think that AI is a great tool for that. I don't think it's the messiah that's gonna give me a back massage and tell me the ways of the world in that way. I think it's a bit hyped. It's a bit like blockchainy. Like, all right, let's calm down. I think that on the underwriting side, especially for the really complex stuff, and even just like just underwriting in general, I'll just say there is magic and art that's there with those underwriters. Some of that is gut stuff. These are people that have been doing this for a very long time. I don't think they're going to take the human out of that loop completely for quite some time. All of that. But outside of that, man, like, that's really what I've seen. Really smart document ingestion, just removing redundant tools. Some of this stuff that's out there, like Band-Aid on broken arm stuff, I think that it could really streamline a lot of that. But yeah, I mean, AI is awesome. I like it. It assistant in a lot of ways. It's good in a lot of ways. It doesn't work in some ways. It's not that good in ways. It's not that smart in every way, in my opinion. And you still need human in the loop. And I think you're going to for some time in this industry. Now, it's funny. Like, okay, I was actually talking to somebody about this today, literally. And it's like, could there be a carrier that comes out that's super sophisticated, leveraging all the best technology and be just, have just an amazing combined ratio? All that said, yes. Has that happened? No. I don't know anybody. I don't think anybody's seen that yet. But that could be. You could start to see things that were really complicated to do as a carrier. You could see smaller competitors coming into the market that start taking little slices away. All that said, leveraging the tools that are available today.
It's funny, your lens of perspective, you're coming at it through the company and the carrier. I know our lens is, more so through the agents. And one of the lessons I learned at a carrier was, we had a vendor. They weren't using AI, but they were using like really, really sophisticated data models. And they came in and they showed us empirically, statistically, that if we would follow this model, we could have and would have saved hundreds of millions of dollars in loss from a loss ratio perspective. But the head underwriters, like, I get it, I believe it, but I'm not flipping the switch on this multi-billion-dollar book of business, because if they're on that 0.001% chance that I miss something, I can't risk it on a $5 billion book. But from an agent perspective, I think, from the long tail, I think there's, a lot of ways and a lot of places where, it's going to have an impact, because I think the downside is cats.
Yeah. I mean, to both of your points, even like in the underwriting workflow, and that could actually benefit agents. One thing we're doing is like for commercial auto risks, you got to send loss trans MVRs at the application. The AI, like document ingestion, the AI will analyze the application. There's 5 drivers. Do I have all the MVRs? Check the MVRs. Do they have 2 years experience? Do they have CDL? Then check to see if they have any DWIs, stuff like that. Then go to the loss trans. I mean, I can tell you probably 80% of the times the agents submit stuff, and I don't know if they don't check it, but we don't have all the loss runs for the last 2 or 3 years like we asked, right? There's big gaps. So AI is really good at that. So maybe not in the underwriting art, like you call it, but just to be able.
It's the underwriting process. It's all the steps of getting the documents to the underwriter.
There's no 6 emails back, missing this, send it back, send it back. And that's the most annoying part of this. Yeah. It's really good at that.
That is literally something that we're working on right now at Ivans. And we're working on building an interface between the carrier and the agency to communicate about this stuff. Like even just having a pizza tracker, like, hey, where's this submission at? What's happened? Oh, wait, you sent this, but I need these 4 things, and building automation around that. Like we get the largest carriers in the world in a room every year. And we put them with the largest agencies in the world, no joke. And we're like, hey, what do you guys want? And all the carriers will tell you, they're like, I want an underwriter ready submission from the agency. And the agency would be like, I would love to not have to go back and forth so many times with you, And so they're kind of saying the same thing, right? But it's
right.
But you
they're saying they want an
automation.
Ready submission, but I use Guidewire and you use Duck Creek and you use Instanda, and we're not willing to change which core policy system we're going to use, but we want the data to come in to be compliant with my proprietary data.
That's right.
We actually built something for an RRG, and it's a checklist, and exactly what I described. Until the checklist is like checked, you're not sending the submission. The submission stops by, with us for the wholesaler. But yeah, it's simple stuff.
Peter, let's do an experiment. I don't know how big the audience is, and I don't know if 1 person or 5,000 people are listening to this, but I'm on LinkedIn. My email address is michael@momentumamp.com. We have a very large agency of ours that's looking to speak to the world renowned RRG expert. So, hypothesis, test, experiment over here. If you're an RRG expert or you know one and you're listening, please contact me or email me. You mentioned RRG, Peter, so I'm putting it out to the universe.
Sounds good. You should probably give out 3 $100 certificates to see if we have 3 listeners. The first 3 people get $100. There you go.
So, yeah, Peter, we'll put your cell phone number on.
Lovely. All right. Well, another good session. Looks like Reid wants to go fishing. Like whatever's happening in Florida.
Definitely going fishing. Not yet. Next week.
We have the shirt. I try to fish.
Oh yeah.
You want to do a plug-in?
No, not really. I just bored. But Yeah, no, next weekend down here in Key West is opening of lobster season, mini season. So a lot of people come down here. They open it up for 2 days prior to all the commercial boats opening up. So a lot of people don't know, down here in the Keys, you catch spiny lobster, Caribbean lobster, which you snorkel, free dive, and catch them. It's not with traps. The commercial boats will run traps and whatnot, but so it's just like a frenzy. Everybody comes down. It's super busy down here in Key West. People come from all over the world for opening up of.
What's the
mini
limit? What's
season.
the limit?
Six lobster per person per day.
And what is the minimum size? Is there a minimum size?
Yeah, there is. It's like it's on the stick. I don't know
Yeah,
the
on the stick,
exact
okay.
length, but like it's whatever. You know it. Like I don't know. I just know. But you had a little measuring stick for him. But yeah, it's pretty fun. Like it's fairly shallower water. So like anybody could do it. Like one of my good buddies coming down, he's bringing his 2 kids and whatnot, and so it's fun. Like anybody can learn how to do it, and so it's a great time. But yeah, that's my fishing adventures for now.
Cool.
For next week. But
I've
yeah,
done
man.
this in Belize, and it was awesome. Yeah, it's good to.
Oh yeah,
It tastes.
yeah.
so
They get
good.
some over there. They get some really big ones too
Yeah.
in the down there.
Well, the
yeah.
reef's right there. It's amazing. It's like 100 yards
Mhm.
out. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. I was in St. Croix and we got some lobster, and they're monsters because it just
Yeah.
gets so deep out there. Here in the Keys, it's not super deep, but we get a lot of them. But they're just not huge ones. At least that I see. But yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
So.
check out how many agents we have that live down there. And pay a business trip.
That's what's up. Right.
All right. That was awesome as
Reid,
usual.
Reid, it's always a pleasure. Always fun. Always learn something.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Likewise. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Thanks for
Enjoy.
having me. It's
Thank
awesome.
you.
It's good to see you guys as always.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Insurance Technology Amplified. Be sure to stay connected and up to date by following Momentum AMP on all social networks. For show notes, resources, and details on upcoming episodes, visit our podcast page at momentumamp.com/podcast. We look forward to having you join us next time. Take care and see you soon.